Welcome, everyone, to the Better Love Movement podcast, where you will finally learn how to intentionally do dating and relationships right. My name is Anita Stoudemire, and I'm a licensed professional therapist and your personal love mentor. I've worked with thousands of singles and couples, giving them the skills needed to attract and keep the amazing love they desire. It's my heart's work to help people to get the skills needed to not only become the very best versions of themselves, but to help them grow and evolve emotionally and relationally. You can absolutely have the romantic relationship of your dreams. Come and let me show you how. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I am Anita Stoudemire, your resident host of the Better Love Movement podcast, and I am back again this week with a brand new podcast episode. We are in episode number 137, and it is entitled, Your Family of Origin is How You Learned How to Be in Relationships. And I wanted to talk a little bit this week about this topic, which is every single one of us who were raised by families. So if you were not raised by a pack of wolves, or you were not raised in an institution, if you were raised by actual people, which I want to believe is every single one of us, that those people is where we got our relationship programming from. So whether that was your mother, your father, single mom, single dad, whether that was your grandparents, your aunts, your uncles, close family friends, godmother, godfather, whoever raised you from childhood to adulthood, it is those early relationships that laid the foundation for how we do relationships, how we show up in relationships. And one of the things I always say in my couple sessions is, I always tell my couples, that's how you learned how to do relationships, was in your family of origin. And the chances are pretty good that some of those lessons were dysfunctional, because I believe most of us grew up in dysfunctional homes that were not perfect, right? Because those weren't perfect people, but homes that, people struggled with a variety of issues. And so this early scripting that we have from that experience is pretty much how we show up in our romantic relationships. So we either become very codependent in our relationships, or seeking approval or acceptance, or we self-sabotage because we are deeply fearful of really being seen by people. Or maybe there's a part of us that, because there was so much chaos in our childhood, we're like always waiting for the other shoe to drop. So for some of us who, that uncertainty feels uncomfortable, we will create problems so that that other shoe can drop. So there's a very small percentage of us that probably had emotionally healthy families and end up with secure attachment styles. But many of us, we've talked at length about attachment styles in an earlier episode, and many of us have either a very anxious attachment style, or an avoidant fearful, or a dismissive avoidant attachment style. But even the folks who, let's say, they did have a pretty healthy upbringing, right? They had mom and dad. Mom and dad were relatively happy and healthy, and they stayed together. They had a few brothers and sisters. Even these folks, they can struggle in relationships because they may struggle with other people that they're running into who did not have it as good as them. And so I like to say that sometimes the folks who came from really great homes, they kind of have a Pollyanna type way of looking at the world, and they assume that this new partner that they're interacting with, they must have come from the same happy, healthy, whole family that I did. And that person is full of trauma, full of all kinds of stuff. And so they may have a tough time recognizing that because it's not something that they grew up in. So they assume that these other people are more like them, and they get blindsided by people's, toxic ways. So it is really, really important that once you become an adult, you have to assess. You have to sit down with a journal or a piece of paper, and you kind of have to assess over a period of days or weeks. What's the good things that my parents gave me? What's the good things that my family relationships gave me? What were some really positive lessons that I learned, or some really positive things that I learned? And then what are some things that were not good? What are some ways that my family had that just aren't working out for me? I'm continuing this cycle, but it really isn't working for me. And those are the things that you're going to have to reject. And then you're going to have to form new habits. Okay? You've got to create some healthy habits to have a successful romantic relationship. So I'm going to use myself as an example and tell you a little bit about my childhood, which I believe for the most part was pretty happy and healthy. But now looking back as an adult, especially an adult who's a clinical mental health professional, I could see now that there were, a lot of toxic things going on in my family of origin that did play a huge part in how I interact in romantic relationships. I've talked on the podcast at length about the relationship with my father and his lack of emotional availability, him kind of weaving his way in and out of my life. Even when he was physically present, he wasn't emotionally present. My dad has always struggled with being able to do the long haul thing, being able to delay gratification, keeping his word. These are things that he's really, really struggled with. And I've talked with people about a lot of reason why that is so is because he was abandoned as a young child by his mother and his father. So that definitely affected who he became as a man and how he showed up in my life as a young girl and now a woman. So when you get older, it's an interesting thing because you finally get to see your parents as people, right? They're not all knowing. They're not all wise. They don't have it all together. They're just people, just like the rest of us. They're making a ton of mistakes, just like the rest of us. And two things can be true at the same time. You can love your parents dearly, but you can also acknowledge their their toxic ways. You can also acknowledge their dysfunction. You can also acknowledge the pain that they caused you and how they hurt you. Two things can be true at the same time. And it is not disloyal of you to be able to acknowledge that. Like, we need to be able to do that. That is, in my opinion, what makes you a grown-up, is that you don't continue to look through these very rose-colored glasses at your parents, that you can see them for the real people that they are. And you can recognize the mistakes that they made and see them for who they really are. And you can still love them. You can still care for them. But we've got to be honest with ourselves and sometimes them. Okay? So the script that was running underneath the relationship with my dad was, there's something wrong with me. There's something wrong with me. I'm not good enough, right? There's something wrong with me. Why doesn't this man want to be there for me? Why doesn't he want to spend time with me? Why doesn't he want to stick around for me? Why doesn't he see me? Why doesn't he hear me? And that, in my opinion, and some things that happened even with my mom, I think that bred this underlying theme of codependency. I've got to, knock myself out. I've got to prove myself. I've got to excel in these different areas. I've got to be all things to all people. I've got to earn love. I think that's where that theme comes from. And, a lot of these codependent ways that I had came from that. And it also came from, both of my parents have been married multiple times. My mother's been married 3 times. My father's on his 4th marriage. And so there was a lot of moving. There was a lot of moving parts in terms of just people coming in and out of our lives, a lot of moving around. And so there was never really anything secure to put your foot on. Like there was never any sure footing in my childhood and young adulthood because of all of this, moving and marriages and all these different people coming and going and having to get used to all these different people and some of the chaos that ensued because of that. And so again, it creates this trauma in you that says, I have got to be perfect. I've got to be all things to all people and be perfect. And I've got to earn love. That was the general theme. And so the bad news is about having that as a program that you're running is you begin to feel like you're always the problem. That if things aren't working out, if people aren't choosing you, that it's you. It's me, it's me, it's me. What's wrong with me? Something's wrong with me. Like you're saying that to yourself over and over and over. And until you do that healing work, until you recognize, okay, so the first step was, I think it was like 22, 23, I went to therapy. I recognized, okay, these people aren't perfect, okay? They don't know everything. They don't know what they're doing half the time. Like that was the first realization when I actually said that out loud. I actually acknowledged that these people are not perfect. They may be X amount of years older than me, but they don't have everything together. They don't have all their stuff together clearly. They're doing the best they can with what they know, but they're not perfect. And once I said that, and I could clearly see that they weren't, that they had, struggles just like everybody else, I was like, okay, I can finally say that, and it's okay. I don't feel bad about it. I don't feel disloyal. It doesn't make them bad people. It makes them human. And then I just sat down and I assessed, there are a lot of things that they did that I don't want to repeat. There's a lot of ways that they showed me that I don't want to, just do over and over. I don't want to repeat those things. And so I need to figure this thing out for myself. I need to do what works for me. I need to kind of reprogram myself. One of the messages that my mother subconsciously sent me was, this, you've got to be married. You've got to have a man. You've got to be married. You've got to have a man at all costs. You've got to be married. You've got to do whatever you need to do because you're going to need a man. You're going to want to need a man. You're going to need a man. And not need a man for the right reasons, like I say, because I do believe we as feminine women do need men, but need a man for all the needy wrong ways, right? So need a man in the sense of I'm nothing without him. Like not in that way, okay? But in the healthy, I need a man. But my mom's script was, it's not good enough for me to just raise my children on my own. That's not good enough. I have to go into the next relationship and the next relationship and the next relationship. I must have a man. I can't do this on my own. And so that was a programming that she ran. And I picked up some of that in my young 20s where I felt like, okay, I'm going through a succession of relationships, good, bad, or indifferent, because, I'm not whole on my own. I'm completed by being with a man. And so I had to, kind of unpack that also. Like, okay, wait a minute. I don't need to keep choosing these men to make me whole. Like I'm whole on my own. I should be choosing a quality man. I should be patient enough to wait for a man who's actually good to me and good for me. Like I shouldn't just be choosing a man because I need a man to be whole. So there were some messages that I got from her also that weren't healthy. And again, that played out in my young adulthood. And I had to do that work to kind of unpack that, to say, no, I can be by myself. I can feel good about that. I can still feel like a perfectly whole woman, on my own. And I do need a healthy masculine man's healthy leadership and masculinity. But I don't necessarily, I'm not less of a woman if I'm not with a man. That's something that, I had to really work through that that not having a man doesn't make me less of a woman. So that was some early childhood scripting I got there. Both of my parents were very much like secret keepers. That was another thing where it wasn't healthy, or at least that's what I was programmed, that it's not healthy to share everything or to share intimate things. So there was this fear of intimacy because they were both secret keepers. Like, yeah, we don't tell each other everything, and there's secrets, there's things that we don't know about each other, and we should keep all these secrets. And there's definitely, we should keep secrets within our house. We shouldn't tell anything outside of our house. Like, there was all of that going on. And I believe that led to this idea of intimacy, being truly seen, being truly heard, and letting other people, see us and us see them. I think that created a kind of a fear of intimacy in me, where I was like, nope, I'm only going to keep you at arm's length. There's secrets here that I need to hold on to. You shouldn't know everything. I shouldn't be telling you everything. And there was this fear of intimacy there. That, again, I had to do that work. I remember probably in my mid-30s, I started working on that fear of intimacy. That's something that I still work on to this day. But a lot of people have this. They have this fear of really being seen by another person and letting another person see them. That fear of intimacy. And that will happen if our families were secret keepers, or if our families didn't leave us room to really express ourselves and speak our truth and that sort of thing. If we were always kind of hush-hushed, there's going to be this fear that, it's not okay to be who I am, or to be seen, or to be heard. And so all of these things are having, they're having an effect on how you do relationships. I had one client in particular who was very deeply entrenched in this idea that, you shouldn't express what you need, right? That you shouldn't just come out of your mouth with words and say to your partner what you needed. Well, he should just know by my body language. I shouldn't have to tell him what I need. And if he doesn't know, he's not the right person for me. I was like, where are you getting this from? Well, my mom never talked to my dad. He just knew. My mom never told my dad anything, and he just knew what to do. He just knew to bring home flowers, and he just knew to do this, and he just knew to do that. But if he didn't, my mom would sit around and pout. She would give him the cold shoulder. And I'm thinking, yeah, that's really bad advice. Like that's really bad programming, because true intimate love requires that we be responsible for getting our needs met. Like, we can't put that on another person. We have to stand up and speak up and say what it is we need. We have to be willing to do that. Like, I need a hug. I need some affection. I need a date. I need some time together. I need more calls during the day. I need more texts during the day. I need more lovemaking. I need more, gifts. I need more acts of service, or whatever your love language is, right? It's up to you to get those needs met, and to definitely voice those needs. Like, that's half of how you get your needs met, is you have to voice those needs. You have to use words on paper, words in an email, a text, words out of your mouth. Like, you have to actually verbalize, hey, this is what I need. I'd love more of this. This would feel so good, right? So, yes, this was something that, her parents, they were great parents, and her mom and dad are still together to this day. But she's like, yeah, that's kind of the dance they did for years, where my mom never really said what she needed. She never really verbalized like what she wanted or needed from my dad. And there were times where she didn't get it, and she didn't feel good. She felt kind of bad that, she really needed more time from him, or she needed more date nights or what have you, and it didn't happen, and she just sat around and sulked. And so that's what my client was doing with her significant other. That's what she learned from her mother is, if you don't get what you want, you just sit around and sulk. It's the same where women say, and I hear this all the time from husbands. Oh, I ask her what's wrong with her. I ask her what she needs, and she says, nothing. Everything's fine. Trust me, that person learned that from somewhere. They learned that that's what you say. You don't own what you need. You don't say out of your mouth what you need because the other person should either dig it out of you or they should just know. That is a very toxic communication trait that we have to let go. You are responsible for getting your needs met. And you do that by verbalizing what your needs are, by setting standards for yourself and saying, yes, I need affection. I need date nights. I need small gifts, and tokens of appreciation. I need words of affirmation. I need time with you. You have to be willing to say that. But if we grew up in a home where, it was not safe to do that. We weren't seen, we weren't heard, and it just wasn't safe to say what we wanted or needed. Yes, you're going to take that into your adult romantic relationships. So I really want you to unpack this. I really want you to think about some of the unhealthy communication traits, the toxic or dysfunctional ways of being in relationships. I've known people who have put up with cheating for years and years and years because, again, in their family of origin, mom put up with cheating from dad. And so they then learned subconsciously, well, it's just what men do. If I had a nickel for every woman that's ever said that, oh, that's just what men do. Men cheat. And I'm like, no, that's unacceptable. That's a standard that you should set that says, no, that's unacceptable for me, for a man to cheat over and over and over. Or, oh, that's just what men do. They have another family on the other side of town. And as long as he's paying the bills at the house and he's doing what he's supposed to do, let him cheat in peace. No, but there are a lot of people who grew up with that way of thinking, that that's just what men do. That's what they saw their dad do to their mom. And again, we're taking these traits into our adult relationships. And for a lot of men, they saw their dad cheat on their mom, and so they become cheaters and they cheat on their wives. And I can't tell you how many men have come into my practice and told me how devastating it was to see their mother cry, to know that their father had cheated on their mother or had, gotten another woman pregnant or had other children. Oh, it was so devastating. I was crushed for her. My heart was just hurting so much for my mother. And yet, here I am. I'm an adult man having an affair on my wife in my marriage. And see, they don't realize it, but subconsciously, they were programmed to think that's what men do. And what I say to them is, I want to take you back to that time when you were a young boy and how you felt looking at your mother cry, looking at her be really, really hurt by what your father did. And I want you to empathize with her. And perhaps that can help you to see how your wife must feel about this, and how hard it is for her, and how painful it is for your children. But yes, a lot of us, we come from dysfunctional backgrounds. We come from drug abuse or alcohol abuse. We come from infidelity. We come from domestic violence. We come from, stonewalling or just, the critical parent. A lot of us have a very critical parent. And so we're being raised to believe, we can't do anything right. We can't get anything right. We can't do anything right. A lot of us are having relationships with people that are like our mom and our dad, because subconsciously, I know I did, for years, I attracted men just like my father, men who were emotionally unavailable, men who would abandon me, men who didn't do what they said they were going to do, men who didn't show up for me. That was a 20 plus year theme in my history of dating. And yet I just couldn't figure it out. These men didn't look like my dad. They didn't do the same type of work as my dad. I thought, oh, all these men are so different. No, they weren't. Deep down, underneath it all, they were just like my dad. And I was running the script, trying to, because what are we doing? We're picking a partner like mom or dad. We're trying to rewrite history. We're thinking, hey, if I can turn this guy into the most sensitive man ever, loving and kind and always there for me and always choosing me, then not only do I get this right, I get things right with my dad. If I could take this woman and turn her into the most sweet, loving, admiring woman who's always encouraging me, instead of, her being the hypercritical, I can never do anything right. Well, I win with her and I win with my mother, because a lot of men had a hypercritical mother. They had a very critical, down-talking mother, a mother who was angry at their father, and, oh, God, you look just like your father, and they just could not do anything right. But they tend to choose women like her, and they do this dance over and over and over, and they can't figure out, why do I keep attracting the same type of woman? Because you have that family of origin wound. And you have to do the work to heal that wound. Now, I see it coming a mile away. If I feel instant chemistry with a man, if I feel strong sexual chemistry with a man, I run the other way. If a man cannot keep his promise to call me or text me, I run the other way. There's no part of me that wants to change that man. There's no part of me that wants to, I could turn him into a teddy bear. Nope, I see him for who he is, and I run the other way. I do not allow men to disappoint me anymore. I do not allow myself to do that dance that I did with my father for all of those years. No, I leave those men clean alone. I say, nope, this is a reminder of a childhood I do not want to repeat. I would much rather be chosen by a loving, caring man who can keep his word, who has integrity, who is emotionally available to me. That's what I'd rather have. And then I leave those type of men alone. It will take work on your part. Number one, you have to see that that's exactly what's happening. There is a pattern here. You have to be willing to see the pattern. And then number two, you've got to change that pattern. You've got to go in a different direction than that pattern, and that's it. You're like, nope, this is reminding me of the last 3 men I dated. I see a pattern here, and I'm not going to choose this person. In the beginning, when you are in your right mind, that's when you make the determination if you're going to choose this person or not. And enough of us are not doing that. We're not taking the early part of a relationship to really determine, do I want to choose this person or not? Because at the end of the day, I don't care if that person comes up to you, if they call you, text you, or pursue you, you still must choose them back. And if you see that there are similarities either to your mother or father or a past caregiver or other men that you've dated, don't choose them. It really is that simple. I have a suitor right now who has been incredibly inconsistent. He has, kind of popped in and out, and I've just already made up my mind. I'm not going to choose him. I'm not going to choose him. I'm not going to choose to answer his calls or his text. And if he wants to go out, I will not go out because I'm not even going to waste my time. This is someone who's incredibly inconsistent and indecisive, and I'm not going to choose him. And that's what I want you to do. I want you to empower yourself to say, I can make different choices. I can go against whatever childhood programming that I have, especially if you do your work. You've got to go in to a good therapist, a good coach, and you've got to unpack all of this. And you have to make a decision to go in the opposite direction. I will develop more interest for people that I don't necessarily have loads of sexual chemistry with. I will take my time. I will make sure that I don't get love bombed or dive head into some, physical attraction with someone. I'm going to take my time. And if I see inconsistency, if I see any behavior that doesn't make me feel good, I will not choose this person. Yes, you can do that. You can do that. So that's a part of, really unpacking this whole, family of origin, how we do relationships, and repeating these patterns and these cycles. But you have to be willing to see it. You've got to be honest with yourself about your parents. It doesn't make you disloyal to call it like you see it. And especially on your own or with your therapist. I'm not asking you to confront your mother or your father unless you want to write them a letter or you want to confront them. Outside of that, I just want you to see it for yourself so that you can make different choices and you can do the work that you need to do. This is so, so important. I see so many people repeating generational curses and just cycles of behavior passed down from, grandparent to parent to you, and then you pass it down to your kids. No. One of the things that I promised myself was, one, I would not have secrets in my home. And I remember telling my mother that when I had my daughter, and now, that was 22 years ago, there won't be secrets in my home. Everyone here, they speak openly and honestly. There's free and open dialogue in my home between me and my 3 children, and there are no secrets. And then the second thing I said was I was going to give my children the stability that I felt like I needed, but I didn't get. And so I made the decision to put my children in an area of the county in the home that we lived in. They went to the same school for elementary school, middle school, high school. My children, last 2, just graduated high school in June. They went to school with the same kids all the way from elementary school, from kindergarten. And I did that on purpose because it wasn't something I ever got. I never got the same home, the same schools, knowing the same kids my whole life. I never got that. I had to learn very quickly how to adapt to new school settings, new kids, new neighborhoods, and I didn't want my children to have that. And so I'm very blessed to say that's exactly what I did. And so now I'm free to pick up and move. I probably won't, but I'm free to pick up and move somewhere else because I feel like that's a gift that I gave to my children. So yes, you can make changes. You can decide to do things differently than how your parents did it. You can decide to do things differently in relationships. But the first step is you have to see with your eyes and your heart and your mind, okay, this is something that is coming from my childhood. This is coming from a childhood wound that I have, and I don't like it, and I don't want to continue it. So I can see it. I'm going to make a conscious choice that this is not what I want to keep repeating. And then you quit, you stop, and you get help. You get accountability help. You get someone to hold you accountable. To say, this guy is just like the last 3. This looks very familiar. You're moving really fast. Looks like, you're kind of doing the same thing you've been doing. You've got to have a trusted person that's going to pull your coattail on that so that you can stay safe, so you can be happy. But those are just some of my thoughts. I could go on and on about this family of origin situation and how some of us get stuck and just going over these patterns over and over, and we don't even see it. I have folks that come into my office after 2 sessions. I can see their patterns clear as day. And when I point them out, they're like, really? I'm like, yeah, this is a pattern that you have. And how's it working for you? Well, it's not working. Okay, so we need to change it. Something needs to change. We need to stop it. And then I put them on the road to let's do something different. Because if we don't, we're going to get the same results over and over and over. So yes, you may need help with this, professional help. You may need a good coach to just walk you through this so you can make better decisions. If you're a young person, I want you to do this sooner rather than later. So if you're between the ages of 20 and 30, you need to get started on this quickly so that you can have the best possible outcome for your romantic relationships, for the person that you marry. You've really got to unpack this. If you are 30 and between 30 and 40, I want you to do the same thing. Now, you may have already, noticed some patterns. You can do what I call a relationship autopsy, and that'll help you to see what's similar about the men that you've dated and the relationships that have ended, what's similar and what's different. And maybe you can see some patterns. If you're over 40, it's not too late. You can still do this work. You can still make better choices, but you have got to see your patterns, because that's going to make all the difference in you having that happy, healthy, loving relationship or marriage with a healthy masculine man. But it's your choice. It's not just going to fall upon you. It's going to happen when you do the work and when you make a conscious effort, not a subconscious, a conscious effort, that I will not continue the cycle. I will not continue choosing people that just aren't good for me. And you can do that. I'm giving you permission. Okay, I'm empowering you to stop choosing people that aren't good for you. Stop choosing people that aren't choosing you. All right. I hope this episode was helpful. If you have not subscribed to the YouTube channel, please do so today. I'm going to be starting a series of videos called The Feminine Way, and I would love it if you could watch every single one of them. Leave your thoughts in the comments. Let me know what you liked about it, what you didn't like about it, what could have been different or better. I so appreciate you. I'm trying to grow the YouTube channel, so please consider subscribing to the YouTube channel. You can always follow me over on Instagram, where all of my IG lives and all of my great content resides, at betterlovemovement.com. Check out the website. If you would like to work with me on some of these, patterns that you're seeing, I would love to walk beside you and hold you accountable in that way. www.betterlovemovement.com. Check out the services page, and I so look forward to connecting with you. Thank you so much for joining me this week. And as always, stay open to love. Thank you for listening to today's podcast episode. If you are enjoying this podcast, please leave me a 5-star rating and review. Your ratings and reviews help me to continue to bring you more great content. Head on over to YouTube and check out the Better Love Movement channel. There's more video content there, and you can subscribe to be notified when a new video is posted. If you have a question that you would like to have answered on the podcast or in a YouTube video, please send it to me at info@betterlovemovement.com. You can also connect with me directly on the Magnify app to have your dating and relationship questions answered. That's MAGNIFI, and it's available on iOS and Android. You get your first 5 minutes for free. So give me a call and let's chat.